The Doctor lands on Christmas Eve 1851, only to suddenly hear a woman crying out for his help. When he runs out and finds the woman, she keeps screaming for the Doctor, although he's a little bit confused about why, until he suddenly sees what appears to be a future incarnation of him running towards and announcing that he is the Doctor, although for some reason he doesn't seem to recognise his past self. Now, eventually, the door swings open that the woman's been screaming from, and inside is a seemingly monstrous hairy creature with a bronze Cyberman face, to which both doctors get ready to fight it. Now, until it eventually leaps up onto the side of a building. The future Doctor tries to lasso it down but gets pulled up, along with the Doctor himself, and the two of them eventually get pulled through the mill that it's jumped up, and they're about to fall to their deaths when they're suddenly saved by the future Doctor's companion, who is revealed to be named Rosita. Now, the Doctor has a chat with the future incarnation of the Doctor, but to avoid revealing anything and causing any problems, he just introduces himself as John Smith, whilst also noting that this future Doctor seems to have some memories missing, to which the future Doctor reveals that these are because of the Cybermen, and he knows that something was taken recently and something was lost, but he can't quite remember what it was. Anyway, the two doctors part ways, and the Doctor realises that he's got some problems that he needs to deal with. It's revealed that the Cybermen have been working with a disenchanted matron of a boarding house named Miss Hartigan, and she has allied herself with the Cybermen, and they have promised her that she will be heralded at the court of the Cyber King. Now, she says she also has a funeral to attend. The future Doctor and Rosita, noting the funeral party leaving from the house of the Reverend, who is the one to have been murdered, the future Doctor tells Rosita to go back to the TARDIS while he investigates the house. However, when he goes to investigate the house, he suddenly finds himself once again face to face with John Smith, who offers to give him a hand. Now, inside, John Smith asks the Doctor what the investigation is all about. The Doctor reveals that it started with a murder of a man named Jackson Lake. He came to London, but his body was never found, and he'd seemingly gone missing. But then it started with kind of kidnappings and murders by the Cybermen, and he's mainly here to investigate the house of their latest victim, the Reverend Aubrey Fairchild, who has been killed by the Cybermen, and he is a keen supporter of children's charities. While looking around the house, John Smith uses his sonic screwdriver to open up a set of cabinets and finds inside info stamps, technology used by the Cybermen to compress information. To which the Doctor seems a little disturbed by this technology, as he reveals that on the night he regenerated and the night he lost his mind, he had actually been holding an info stamp, but he still can't quite remember what happened that night. He asks John to help him, and John agrees to. However, looking around, he suddenly finds Cybermen inside the house, two Cybermen who follow them. John Smith attempts to fight them off with a cutlass, while telling them to look up their databanks and that he is actually the Doctor, but the Cybermen don't seem to take any heed of this, until the Doctor manages to activate something in the info stamps and zaps both Cybermen with energy, causing them to be killed, which he reveals that's what he had done on the previous time he had met the Cybermen. He asks John why he was masquerading as the Doctor, which John said was just protecting him, whilst also taking a listen to the Doctor's heartbeats. And he promises to help the Doctor find out what's happening. Meanwhile, the funeral that went on for the Reverend Aubrey Fairchild is gate-crashed by the woman who we saw with the Cybermen, Miss Hartigan, the matron of the boarding house, who, along with the Cybermen, she orders all the members of the funeral to be killed except for 4 workhouse masters, Mr. Cole, Mr. Scoons, Mr. Fetch, and Mr. Milligan. To which she reveals that she needs them for their children, whilst also smugly noting to them that her first name is actually Mercy, while everyone else is massacred. The Doctor and John Smith return to the Doctor's base, where they meet up once again with Rosita. Now, inside the Doctor's base, John Smith notes that they've got quite a lot of luggage, which the Doctor reveals is property of the original victim, Jackson Lake. However, inside it, John Smith finds info stamps, and that indicates that Jackson Lake had them the night that he had met the Cybermen. To which he asks if he can see the Doctor's TARDIS, to which the Doctor takes him out and shows him his TARDIS, which is a hot air balloon, tethered aerial release developed in style, which he has maintained by a Victorian worker named Jeb, although it's also revealed he's never actually flown it, considering his work to protect London to be too important. However, John Smith asks the Doctor if he finally wants to know what's happened, like why everything is the way it is, because he thinks he's worked it out. Meanwhile, Miss Hartigan, having now taken control of the 4 workhouse masters using earpieces, orders them to go off and fetch their children. Back inside the base, John Smith tells the Doctor and Rosita about a future time when the Cybermen would be defeated and sent into the void, but then would eventually be sent back in time and would land in Victorian London. He then reveals that Jackson Lake had found the Cybermen and he had used an info stamp. But recalling something back from his first meeting with the Doctor, he asks him if he can have a look at his fob watch, which he had previously examined and found it to be just ordinary, until he flips it over and reveals a set of initials on the other side, JL, which reveals that the Doctor, in this case the future Doctor, is actually Jackson Lake. He isn't the Doctor at all. While the future Doctor seems a bit disturbed by this, John Smith picks up the info stamp that he had used that night and flashed it onto a wall, revealing it's actually a history of the Doctor, and that John Smith himself is actually the Doctor. He deduces that the info stamp must have backfired when he destroyed the Cybermen that night, and streamed all that information about him right inside Jackson's head. To which Jackson begins to recall that night and remembers that the Cybermen had murdered his wife. Anyway, hearing beeping coming from the luggage, the Doctor examines the info stamps once again and finds a call to arms going out, to which he runs out to see what's happening, only to find the workhouse masters marching the children through the streets. Jackson advises Rosita to go with the Doctor and help him, to which they find the workhouse masters seemingly under some kind of hypnotic command, and the cyber shades, which were the creatures they were chasing earlier, are guarding them to make sure they all go. They eventually find that the children are all being led down into the sleuths, which feed into the Thames. However, before they can do anything, they are confronted by the Cybermen and Miss Hartigan, who reveals that she plans to basically take over and cause a mass Cyberman invasion. However, when the Doctor reveals that he is actually the Doctor, the Cybermen at first deny it until the Doctor gives them back their info stamp, which they use to update their technology and find out he is once again the Doctor. Before they can go any further, though, both Cybermen are destroyed by Jackson using info stamps, to which Rosita also briefly punches out Miss Hartigan, who tells the Cyber Shades to inform the Cybermen that they are going to advance their plans. Recalling enough of his memory to remember his wife's death, but also the address in which they encountered the Cybermen, the Doctor, Jackson and Rosita go off to try and find their way back in. To which Miss Hartigan orders all of the children that they've collected to basically start working and fuel the machinery that the Cybermen need. Meanwhile, the Doctor, Jackson and Rosita manage to find their way down to the cellars and see the children working. Meanwhile, Miss Hartigan is double-crossed by the Cybermen, as it reveals that they plan for her to become the Cyber King, while they previously said she would just be heralded. To which she is strapped into the machinery, and the electricity has flowed through her mind, and she becomes the Cyber King. To which, however, she soon proves much more trouble than they had anticipated, when she announces that there will be a new breed of Cybermen, her Cybermen, Logic and strength combined with fury and passion, and promptly deletes the cyber leader when he tries to remove her from the machinery. And while the Doctor, Rosita, and Jackson manage to free the children using info stamps to destroy the Cybermen and help them all to escape. However, seeing the children running down the stairs, the final piece seemingly slots together in Jackson's mind as he realizes that night it wasn't just his wife who was killed, but also the Cybermen kidnapped his son, and that part of his fugue state that he suffered along with the info stamp was from trauma at not only losing his wife but also having his son kidnapped, as he sees his son trapped on a nearby gantry. When he and the Doctor both try to rescue him, the machinery starts to explode because of course the Cybermen are now done with the generator. However, the Doctor, using the cutlass he got earlier, cuts on a set of ropes and is able to rescue Jackson's son Frederick from the high gantry and return him to him safe and sound. Retrieving a piece of technology previously from the Daleks, the Dimension Vaults that the Cybermen had stolen, they make their way back outside where they see the Cyber King rising over London, with Miss Hartigan seemingly announcing that their governments would surrender. The Doctor tells Jackson and Rosita and Frederick to get to safety, as he will now deal with the Cybermen, although Jackson is still a little bit hesitant about the entire thing. The Doctor runs back and finds Jackson's TARDIS, and with a bit of help from Jeb, launches the hot air balloon with himself inside over London and tries to reason with Miss Hartigan. She, of course, doesn't listen to reason, and he promptly fires the energy from the info stamps into Miss Hartigan's brain. While at first it doesn't seem to do anything as she gloats over his defeats, he points out that all he did was sever the cyber connection, leaving her mind open for the first time in far too many years. As Miss Hartigan can finally see what she has become and what she has done, she starts to go insane, screaming, which promptly destroys both her, the Cybermen, the Cyber Shades, and kills the Cyber King. When the Cyber King, though, appears as though it might fall on London, the Doctor activates the Dimension Vault and sends the Cyber King into the Time Vortex to be destroyed. To which Jackson, having seen all of this, leads everyone in London in cheering on for the Doctor, finally thanking him for the work that he does. Back on the ground, Jackson notes how his life will now change because, okay, he's now a widow, but he's got his son, and he's got Rosita by his side. She'll become Frederick's new nursemaid, and he invites the Doctor to join them for Christmas dinner. The Doctor at first turns him down, but after letting Jackson look inside the actual TARDIS, which Jackson finds a little overwhelming, the Doctor prepares to depart. However, Jackson asks him why he doesn't have his companions anymore. Like, why are you travelling alone? To which the Doctor admits his companions occasionally leave, because they should, or they find someone else, and some of them obviously forget him, referencing Donna. To which he admits they do break his heart from time to time. To which Jackson reiterates his invitation to the Doctor for Christmas dinner, to which the Doctor gladly accepts, and they head off to enjoy Christmas dinner together, wishing each other Merry Christmas.